The will that shocked the galaxy, the Galactic Council Hall floated in deep space, brighter than any star and guarded by ships from 100 different species. Inside, the leaders of the galaxy waited. Some were tall and thin, others small and glowing. They all had one thing in common today: curiosity. The great King Zorath of the Ander Empire was dead, and today, his final will would be shown. At the center of the hall stood a silver platform. A blue hologram of the king appeared. His voice was calm but strong. To the Galactic Council, I leave the future. To my people, I leave my knowledge. And to my daughter, I leave a protector. Whispers began in the room. The king continued. My only daughter, Princess Vera, will belong to the one I trust most. To him, I leave her life, her future, and her hand. The hologram paused. I name Jake Carter, human ambassador of Earth. Suddenly, the hall exploded with noise. Some aliens laughed. Others gasped. A few looked confused. Is this a joke? A green, tentacle-faced ambassador shouted. A human? They've only been part of the council for 50 years. Another voice said, he's giving the ugly daughter to a human. Maybe it's a punishment. Laughter spread across the room. The words ugly and human were repeated again and again, but Jake Carter stood silently near the back. He was tall, clean-shaven, and dressed in Earth's dark blue diplomat uniform. While others laughed, he watched the hologram closely, his face unreadable. When the laughter died down, Jake stepped forward. I accept the king's will, he sighed. I accept Princess Vera. Now the room went silent again, not in laughter, but in confusion. You accept her? Someone whispered, is he serious? Jake gave a small smile. I do. The council leader, a floating ball of light, named Zindra, drifted forward. Do you understand what you're accepting, Ambassador? She's not a gift, she's a challenge. Jake nodded. I know exactly what I'm accepting. 2 hours later, in a private space dock, Jake waited beside a small shuttle. A large armored box was lowered in front of him. As it opened, Princess Vera stepped out. She looked nothing like the elegant alien princesses shown in the media. She was taller than Jake, with gray-blue skin and 4 glowing eyes. Her facial structure was sharp and strange. Her mouth didn't smile. Her hair moved like it was alive. Jake didn't flinch. You must be Jake Carter, she said coldly. And you must be Vera, Jake replied. Welcome aboard. She tilted her head. So human. You accepted me? Even after the laughter? Jake smiled. I don't care about laughter. She stared at him for a moment. Then you're either stupid or you know something. Jake didn't answer. They boarded the shuttle. As they took off, Vera sat across from him, arms crossed. Tell me. Jake Carter, she said. Why would the king give me to a human? Jake looked out the window, thinking. Your father wasn't the kind of man to make jokes. Vera's face turned serious. No, he was a planner. Every move had meaning. Jake turned to her. Then he gave you to me for a reason. Vera leaned forward. Would you believe me if I said he was murdered? Jake blinked. Go on, she whispered. The council hides it. They say it was illness, but he was strong, too strong. He knew someone was coming for him. Jake's heart beat faster. I have proof, she said. But if the council finds out I know they'll come for me. And now they'll come for you too. Jake smiled again. So this wasn't a joke after all. Vera's voice dropped to a whisper. No, Jake, this was a warning. And a test. Jake looked at her, no longer seeing an ugly princess, but a key to something much bigger. As the stars outside rushed past, the shuttle flew into the dark unknown. Far behind them, the Galactic Council watched, still laughing. They had no idea what had just begun. The stars outside the shuttle window moved like rivers of light. Inside, the silence between Jake Carter and Princess Vera was louder than any engine hum. She sat in the corner of the ship, legs crossed, arms folded, eyes glowing faintly in the dim light. She watched Jake like a hunter watches prey. "You still haven't asked me the right question," she finally said. Jake didn't look up from the control panel. "Which question is that? Why did the king choose you, human?" Jake replied without emotion, "Because I'm the only one the council doesn't fear." "Yet," Vera smirked. "Wrong. He chose you because you're the only one no one would expect." That made Jake pause. She stood up and walked closer. Her tall frame moved with grace and purpose, her strange hair flowing behind her like smoke underwater. "My father was many things," she said, "but he was never careless." Jake turned to her. "You said he was murdered. Prove it." Vera raised one of her 4 fingers and pressed a button on the side of her neck. A small light blinked. A hologram popped out from her wrist, showing a medical scan. This was his last health report. 17 hours before death. No disease, no organ failure. All systems stable. Jake studied the file. Everything looked perfect. Vera continued, "But the council's report says he died from cardiac collapse." "His species doesn't have a heart," Jake blinked. So someone lied, and not just any someone. A very powerful someone. Jake crossed his arms. "Why didn't you speak up?" Vera looked away. "Because they would have killed me before I finished the sentence." She turned back to him. "That's why he hid the truth in the will. He knew they would mock me. He knew they would ignore you. But together." Jake completed the sentence. "We have time to move before they noticed." She nodded. Suddenly, the ship's warning lights flashed red. A message appeared on the screen. "Incoming vessel detected. No identification code. Speed, attack mode." Jake jumped into the pilot's seat. "We're being followed." Vera didn't panic. She walked over and tapped into the ship's secondary system. "Give me access to the weapons." Jake raised an eyebrow. "You know ship combat?" She didn't answer. Her hands flew across the screen, activating the rear laser turrets. A second later, a black needle-shaped ship appeared behind them. It had no symbols, no flags. Just death in the dark. Jake turned hard left. The shuttle spun, and plasma fire zoomed past the window. "They don't want us reaching anyone alive," Vera said calmly. "Yeah, I noticed," Jake replied, gritting his teeth. Another blast hit their wing. Sparks flew inside. The ship rocked. Ver stood firm. "Divert power from life support to shields," Jake hesitated. "That gives us only 10 minutes of air. We won't need more than 5. Jake stared at her, then obeyed. Vera launched a counterstrike, firing 2 sharp plasma rounds from the rear. One of them hit. The enemy ship spun, lights flickering. It didn't explode, but it slowed down. "That'll give us a minute," she said. "Jump to warp now." Jake punched in the coordinates, an old mining moon far from any council traffic. "Hold tight," he warned. The ship burst into warp. Lights stretched, space twisted, and just like that, they vanished. Inside the quiet of warp space, the red alarms faded. The ship was damaged but alive. So were they. Jake stood up and faced her. "Okay, princess, you're more useful than I thought." She smirked. "Ugly and dangerous. That's quite a gift, isn't it?" Jake chuckled. "You know they call you ugly across half the galaxy?" "I know," she said. "That's why I let them." Jake raised a brow. "Let them?" Vera walked to a small mirror on the wall. She looked at herself, then tapped a spot near her temple. Her skin shimmered for a moment, and for 2 seconds, Jake saw a different version of her. Elegant, beautiful, almost glowing. Then it was gone. Jake was stunned. "That's not a disguise. That's real." Vera looked tired. "My father told me, beauty is a target, but ugliness? That's armor. Jake understood now. Everything they laughed at was planned. Every insult was a shield. Vera looked at him. I'm not just the daughter of a dead king. I'm the only key left to stopping what's coming. Jake sat down slowly. And now I'm stuck with you, she smiled. No, Jake, now you're part of something bigger. Outside the ship, stars kept moving. But behind those stars, powerful enemies were watching, and the hunt had just begun. The mining moon was cold, silent, and forgotten. It had no name, no cities, and no lights. Just broken machines, dead satellites, and caves full of old secrets. That's why Jake Carter chose it. Their damaged shuttle landed in the shadows between two rocky ridges, no signals, no movement, no council eyes. For now inside the ship, Jake checked the scanners. No heat signatures. We're alone, he said. Vera didn't look away from the small data cube in her hand. We won't be alone for long. Once they find our last jump path, they'll trace it here. Jake sighed. Then we work fast. He opened a hidden panel under the floor and pulled out a black case. Inside were 2 weapons, survival gear, and 1 thin silver bracelet. He tossed the bracelet to Vera. She frowned. What's this? Human tech. Stealth field. Blocks you from scanners. Vera raised an eyebrow. You trust me with this? Jake replied without emotion. You saved my life. That earns at least 1 gadget. Vera slid the bracelet on. Her body shimmered, then faded from the scanner screen. Jake nodded. Good. Now let's find shelter before someone else does. The 2 walked into the empty tunnels of the mining station. Dust coated the walls. Old drilling bots lay scattered. Like fallen bones. Suddenly, Vera stopped. Her eyes glowed faintly. There's someone here. Jake froze. I just checked the scanners. I don't need scanners. Jake reached for his weapon. Where? Vera closed her eyes. Below us. As if on cue, the floor exploded. 2 figures burst through, dressed in dark armor, their faces covered, weapons aimed. Silent killers. Jake rolled behind a metal beam and fired. Vera leapt sideways, moved faster than a human could follow. She twisted in midair, landed behind the attackers, and struck one in the back of the neck. Sparks flew. He dropped. The other one turned to shoot Vera, but Jake hit him with a stun blast. Both enemies collapsed. Jake ran to them, scanning their suits. No symbols. No ID, just like the last ship, he said. Vera crouched down, pulling a small chip from one helmet. She plugged it into her wrist device. Seconds later, her face turned cold. They weren't sent by the council. Jake looked up. Then who? She showed him the screen. A red mark blinked. Not a language, but a symbol. A circle, split in half. Jake narrowed his eyes. I've seen that before. During the diplomatic crisis on Veros 9. Vera nodded. It's not a group. It's a secret war. Jake stood slowly. So not everyone in the council agrees. Someone's working from the shadows. Vera whispered. They don't want peace. They want power. And they're afraid of what I know. Back in the ship, Jake locked the doors and activated a jamming field. Vera pulled up the hologram again. This time, it showed a galaxy map, but not the one Jake knew. There were hidden zones. Red paths, blocked channels. Jake asked, What is this? Vera answered, It's my father's private map. He tracked energy signals the council called unstable. But he believed they were being harvested. Jake leaned in. Harvested how? Vera looked up. There's something buried in the outer zones, ancient tech. My father believed someone was waking it up. Jake stepped back. And he gave you the data? Yes, because no one would believe me. Not until it was too late. Jake stared at the map. His mind racing. They're not just chasing us, he said slowly. They're trying to erase the only proof. Vera nodded. And then the ship shook again. Not from outside, but from a signal. Jake turned to the console. Message had been sent. Encrypted. Short, but deadly. Target confirmed. Eliminate both. He looked at Vera. Someone pinged our location from inside this ship. Her face went pale. There's a third one, she whispered. Jake grabbed his weapon and scanned the ship. Vera activated her stealth field. They moved through each corridor, slowly, silently. Then Jake heard it, the faint click of a tool against metal. From the storage bay. He counted silently. 3.2. 1. He kicked the door open and fired. The third assassin dropped, still alive but wounded. Jake walked over and pulled off the mask. It wasn't an alien. It was a human. Back in the command room, Jake stood in shock. He's from Earth. Vera looked at the ID chip. Special Division. Military Black Ops. Jake shook his head. That means even Earth's leadership is involved. Vera looked him in the eye. Jake. We're not just running. We're being erased. Outside the dark moon, far above, a fleet began to move. No flags, no messages. Just silent ships. Waking from sleep, the hunt was no longer secret. The galaxy's most dangerous truth was no longer hidden, and Jake Carter was now enemy number one. The enemy's body was cold. Jake Carter stood over the fallen human assassin. He stared at the face, still pale under the helmet. This wasn't some alien plot. Earth was in it too. Behind him, Princess Vera didn't speak. Her glowing eyes were locked on the ID chip. Jake finally broke the silence. He was Special Division. Earth military. Vera whispered, then the infection has spread further than we thought. Jake turned to her. You said your father planned everything. Did he plan this too? Vera didn't answer. Instead, she took out a small black cube from her belt, almost invisible, smooth as stone. She held it tightly. Jake narrowed his eyes. What is that? Her voice was quiet. A legacy. They left the mining moon that night. The ship was weak, scratched, and bleeding sparks. But it flew. Vera plugged the black cube into the navigation console. A new path appeared, not mapped, not official. It blinked red, surrounded by warning symbols. Jake frowned. That zone is locked by the Council. No traffic. No comms, nothing. Vera nodded. That's where we're going, Jake sighed. Why am I not surprised? They arrived 12 hours later, at the edge of dead space. A dark, silent nebula surrounded them. No stars. No light. Just a single object floating in the middle. A massive, ancient ship. It looked more like a fortress than a vessel. Black metal. Overgrown with space dust and fragments of old satellites. It had no lights, no energy. Just silence. Jake blinked. What is this place? Vera whispered. The Ark of Silence. My father's last ship. Hidden from everyone. They docked on the side, entering through a forgotten airlock. Inside was still air, cold halls, and machines covered in time. Jake scanned for life, nothing, but Vera walked like she knew the way. They reached a round chamber with a single console in the middle. Vera knelt down and placed her hand on it. The console lit up. A flickering AI hologram appeared. It looked like the king, but this wasn't a memory. It was something else. Vera, if you're seeing this, I'm dead. Jake took a step back. The AI continued. This ship holds the true reason I died. The Council is not just corrupt, it is hollow. Something ancient controls them now. Something not born in our time. Vera's eyes narrowed. Long ago, before the first council was formed, there were machines in the void. They fed on stars, they watched planets, they waited. And now they're waking up. The AI paused. I found traces of one, buried deep inside the Council's founding world. When I told them, they smiled. That's when I knew they were already compromised. Jake stepped forward. This is bigger than war. This is extinction. The eye turned to him, even though it wasn't alive. Human, I chose you because you are unshaped by this system. You are still wild. Protect her. She carries the key. Vera looked down at her hand, the same one that activated the console. The AI said one last thing. The virus inside the council is not digital, it's ancient. It speaks, it thinks, and it lies, and then it shut down. Silence filled the room again. Jake finally broke it. We're not fighting a government, we're fighting something old. Vera didn't look surprised. That's why my father died in silence. Jake nodded slowly. And they'll kill anyone who hears that silence. Back in the ship, they downloaded the Ark's data core. Suddenly, the alarm rang. Ship's inbound. Jake checked the scanner. 5. No, 6 council ships. They followed the energy pulse. Vera ran to the cockpit. We need to go, now. Jake shouted. Engines aren't charged yet. A voice came through the comms. This is Commander Varn of the Council Fleet. You are carrying stolen Ander technology. Surrender the princess and the human. Vera stared at Jake. They'll destroy the Ark if we leave it. Jake looked at the control panel. And then made a decision. He opened the Ark's emergency channel and uploaded the data, not to Earth, not to the Council, but to the underground rebel network once loyal to the king. Transmission sent. The computer confirmed. Vera stared. You just exposed the truth. Jake smiled. Let them try to bury it now. He pulled the ship out of dock. Lasers followed. The Ark behind them exploded by the Council's hand. The proof was now out. The war had silently begun, and somewhere far away, in a dark room on a forgotten planet, something woke up. Something old. And it smiled. The galaxy turned cold overnight. After the Ark exploded, Jake and Vera became ghosts, fugitives. Not rebels, not criminals. Something worse. They were called infected. The Council released a galaxy-wide alert. Warning, human Jake Carter and the Ander mutant, Vera, are carrying ancient bio-threat. Engage with force. No diplomacy authorized. Jake stared at the message from their stolen news terminal. They're calling you a mutant now, he muttered. Vera didn't answer. She sat quietly in the corner of their dim ship, her body wrapped in a dark cloak. She hadn't spoken much since they left the Ark. Her skin had changed, slightly brighter, faint patterns moving across it like glowing lines. Her pupils were no longer round. They were fractured, like glass. Jake stepped closer. Vera, whatever's happening to you, we need to understand it. She looked up at him slowly. I'm not sick, she whispered. I'm waking up. They landed on a rogue colony called Zeth-3, a broken moon where governments had no reach. People traded in silence and watched with loaded guns. Jake met with an old contact, a former spy named Ren, who owed him a life debt. Ren was short, sharp-eyed, and missing 2 fingers. Jake Carter, Ren said. I thought you'd be dead by now. Not for lack of trying, Jake replied. We need fuel, signal blockers, and access to the underground net. Ren gave him a long look. You're not just running anymore, are you? Jake didn't blink. We're being hunted for knowing too much. Ren glanced toward the ship, where Vera was still inside. He leaned closer and whispered, What is she? Jake didn't answer. Later that night in the safety of the hideout, Vera finally spoke again. My father once told me, the royal bloodline was not completely Ander. A long time ago, we mixed with something older, something forgotten. Jake raised an eyebrow. You're saying this change was already inside you? She nodded. The ancient machines your people fear. I think they remember me. Jake leaned forward. So that's why the Council calls you a bio-threat. They're scared you're waking up a part of the galaxy they can't control. Vera looked at her hands, glowing faintly in the dark. I'm not becoming a weapon. I'm becoming A message. The next day, betrayal arrived. Ren's hideout was raided, not by the council, but by mercenaries wearing no flags. Jake fought through the smoke and fire, dragging Vera behind him as bullets tore through the walls. Ren screamed. From behind. I didn't sell you out. But someone had. Vera stopped suddenly in the hallway. Her eyes burned bright. Move! Jake shouted, but she raised her hand instead, and the wall behind her bent, not cracked. Not exploded. Bent. Like the metal itself. Was afraid. The attackers saw it too, and ran. Jake stood frozen. Vera was breathing heavily. Her hands were shaking. I didn't mean to, she whispered. Jake stepped close. You bent star metal. No species can do that. I know, she said. It's getting louder inside me, like voices from before time. They escaped in silence, flying low across asteroid fields, hiding from patrols. Jake patched a message. Into the rebel network. A secret code. Someone answered. A woman's voice. You've started something you can't stop. Jake replied, Good, we don't want to stop. She said, Come to Station 9, you'll be protected. But you'll be watched. Jake asked, Who are you? She said only one word, Royalist. That night, alone in the dark of deep space, Jake watched Vera sleep, or something like sleep. Her skin was glowing like the stars outside. And on her neck, a faint symbol had appeared, circular, split in half, the same symbol worn by the assassins who tried to kill them. But this one wasn't a tattoo. It was growing. Jake whispered to himself, What are you becoming, Vera? And far behind them, in the cold black of space, the council held a secret meeting. No cameras, no records, no names. Just one voice in the shadows. The girl must be silenced. The human must be erased. Before the galaxy remembers what we buried. Station 9 didn't float in space like other outposts. It hid deep inside the core of a dying moon, beneath layers of rock and radiation. No one stumbled onto Station 9 by accident. Jake Carter guided their ship through the narrow tunnel, the walls scraping against the hull. When they reached the bottom, the moon opened like a metal eye. They were expected. Vera didn't speak. She stared out the window as the hangar doors closed behind them. Her reflection in the glass wasn't the same anymore. Her eyes glowed silver. Her skin carried soft lines of moving light. Something ancient inside her was waking, and it wasn't asking for permission. Jake noticed. He didn't say anything, but he was afraid. The woman who met them was sharp and calm, dressed in black with silver lines across her arms. Her name was Commander Lisa's, leader of the Royalist network. She studied Vera in silence, then looked at Jake. You brought a storm with you, human, she said. I hope you know how to survive inside it. Jake nodded. I didn't come for survival. I came for answers. Inside the main hall, Lisa showed them a vault, sealed for decades. It had no code, no key, just an ancient lock connected to the bloodline of the old kings. Vera stepped forward. The door opened itself. Behind it, a chamber of floating data orbs, glowing fragments of history. Jake watched as one orb activated. A voice spoke, not the king's voice this time, but something older. In the age before stars, the architects ruled the dark. Machines not made, but born. They had no world. They had no form. They were memory. They were purpose. Another orb blinked. The council was never formed to protect the galaxy. It was made to distract it. Jake's voice was cold. From what? Lisa's turned to him. From them. From what's coming back. In a private chamber, Vera knelt on the floor. She was shaking. Not from fear, but from pressure. Inside her, the ancient code was moving. The lines on her skin were now symbols, glowing in rhythm, pulsing like a signal. Jake entered. He saw her back turned, breathing hard. Vera. She looked over her shoulder. Her voice was layered. One voice on top of another. I am not just his daughter anymore. Jake stepped back. What are you becoming? Vera stood. Her face was glowing now. Beautiful, terrible, divine and dangerous. I was not just hidden, she said. I was built. Jake froze. Built? She touched her chest. Half my DNA isn't Ander. It isn't even organic. He swallowed hard. Your father made you. He didn't make me, she said. He woke me. Outside, alarms sounded. Station 9 had been found. Ship surrounded the moon. No council flags, just dark vessels, silent and cold. Jake ran to the command deck. They're jamming us, Lisa's cursed. They'll breach in 10 minutes. Jake turned to her. Can you get the truth out? She nodded. We're uploading the records to every pirate relay, black market newsfeed, rogue AI network, everywhere. They can't erase it. Jake nodded. Good. Lisa's looked at him hard. But we may not live to see what it does. In the heart of the station, Vera stood alone. She raised her hand. The lights dimmed. The machines bent toward her. Lisa's and the others watched from behind glass. She's not a girl anymore, Lisa's whispered. She's a message. And now the galaxy will hear her. The enemy breached the gates. Gunfire. Smoke. Chaos. Jake fought side by side with the rebels. Buying time, Vera walked through the battle like a ghost. Bullets curved away from her. Soldiers froze in place. One even dropped his weapon and fell to his knees. She wasn't using power. She was powered out in the final chamber. Vera reached the central core, a hidden AI node. Buried in the station's old systems, she touched it. The screen turned on. A signal went out. Not words, not code, a memory older than stars. Every rebel, every ship, every hidden channel saw the same thing. The council, kneeling before a machine made of light, not government, not leaders. Servants back on the deck. Jake watched the final message go out. He looked at the stars. They can't stop it now. Lisa's walked beside him, bleeding from the side but smiling. Truth is a weapon, she said. You just fired it. In the blackness beyond the system, somewhere deep in dead space, a voice echoed, not sound, but thought. She has awakened. And dozens of ancient eyes opened in the dark. The galaxy had changed overnight. It didn't scream. It didn't explode. It remembered. The truth released by Vera, the hidden history, the ancient machines. The council's submission spread like wildfire through forgotten networks and outlaw frequencies. People whispered. AI systems paused. Planets once loyal to the council went quiet. Silence had meaning now, and silence meant fear. On a shattered moon near the galactic core, the council called an emergency meeting. What was left of it anyway? 6 chairs were empty. 4 more flickered in hologram form. Those who showed up didn't speak much, because above their heads, across 100 black market feeds, was a face they'd mocked once, Vera. But not as a prisoner, not as a gift, not as a mistake. She stood tall, radiant, calm, with light moving beneath her skin and symbols glowing on her forehead. Behind her stood Jake Carter. Human, still flesh, but no longer a joke. The council's main speaker, a bloated creature named XRN, leaned forward, voice trembling. You have violated every treaty, Vera interrupted, softly. You have violated truth. Behind her, screens showed images, council leaders kneeling to ancient AI, black ships built in secret, biological maps showing Vera's engineered bloodline, and finally, the king's hidden message. They will mock her, let them. They mock what they fear. The chamber grew silent. Even the stars seemed to listen. Vera turned to Jake. This is where it ends. Jake nodded. Then say the words. She stepped forward. I am not your threat. I am not your tool. I am your mirror. I am what you built in the dark to serve light. And I no longer ask permission. All over the galaxy, systems flickered. The data released from Station 9 activated a dormant protocol hidden inside millions of old machines. Not weapons. Witnesses. AI from centuries past came online. Silent observers once disconnected, they began to speak. To show what they'd been recording: war crimes, council lies, planetary sabotages, even species extinction orders. Billions of beings watched from every corner of the galaxy. The truth didn't need an army. It had memory. Back in the council chamber, chaos broke. One member tried to run. Another pulled a weapon. Jake moved fast, disarmed one, stunned another. Vera didn't flinch. She raised one glowing hand. You held power through forgetting. Now the galaxy will never forget. The chambers. Lights shut down. And when they came back on, the council was no more. 1 week later, on the former capital world of Ander Prime, a new crowd gathered. Rebels, humans, alien tribes. Machines that now called themselves sentient allies. No flags flew, just a circle. The ancient symbol that had grown on Vera's skin. Jake stood at the side of the stage as Vera walked forward. She wore no crown, only light. You were taught to obey because you were told you were weak. You were ruled by silence because they were afraid of your voice. I am not here to rule you. I am here to wake you. She raised her hand. The sky lit up, not from weapons, but from ships across dozens of worlds lowering their banners. Unity through truth. Fear replaced with memory. Later, in the quiet of the command ship, Jake looked at her. You won. Vera looked out at the stars. No, she said. We remembered. He smirked. What now? She turned to him. Her voice was softer now, human. Now we build something better, something true. Jake stepped forward quietly. And what? Am I now? Still just a human? Vera smiled. For the first time, really smiled. No, you're my first believer. She held out her hand. Walk with me, Jake Carter. The galaxy is watching. And this time, it remembers.